Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Glasgow Rangers Nation podcast live with me, your host Owen. And I'm joined by not one but two fantastic guests. First of all, you might remember Scott Mackay from Inside Ibrox. You've been on before. Scott, how's your day? How's your week? How you doing,
Aye,
buddy?
not bad at all, not bad. Living the dream, living the dream. Another good mood
Aren't we
today
all?
because the Rangers didn't get a job done yesterday.
Absolutely. It's funny, isn't it, how one result can take our whole week and change it, isn't it? And we're also joined as well from the gallant few by Shona as well. Shona, how are you?
Yes, I'm very well. Nice to meet you, Owen, for the very first time.
Yeah,
And
it's good to meet
looking
you too,
forward to
Shona.
talking about, obviously, yesterday's win.
Absolutely. And Shona, I was just saying, as I said to Scott, it's weird, isn't it, how one result at a weekend can just affect your mood for the whole week.
Absolutely, especially if you're going into this international break, isn't it? So then we've not got much Rangers games on for the next. Our next game is against Aberdeen. So yeah, and look, it's very much very positive result from yesterday, and it's looking forward to now the after the international break and seeing off Aberdeen hopefully, because we know what Aberdeen are like, guys, don't we? After that gubbing yesterday, they're going to turn up for us for the cup final. So no, looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And before we talk about the game yesterday and we talk about obviously Philippe Clement's time at Rangers, Scott, what did you make of Chris Boyd's rant on Sky yesterday about Aberdeen?
It's one of these things, really, isn't it? I mean, there's not really much. I've not really got a dead set opinion on it, to be brutally honest with you. I'm glad he's the one that's doing it and it's not the Rangers manager, because we don't need any excuses like that. We just need to get up to Pittodrie and get a job done. Just take care of our own business. Whatever Aberdeen want to do, if they want to lie down to Celtic and decide to come and play against us, that's fine. As long as we go and get 3 points.
Absolutely, 100% agree with you there, Scott. Shona, what was your take on Boydie's rant on Sunday?
Oh, I do. I love a good wind up, don't I? Oh, I do. Yeah, I thought, to be honest, I think obviously he's just saying exactly what we're all thinking as fans. But yeah, I think what Scotty said, it's all about what happens, what we do on the pitch and get those 3 points and up the road. And if Aberdeen want to turn up against us, then we'll wait and see what happens a week on Saturday, because I don't think they will. I think they're going to get an absolute spanking off of us. We've got now Clement on board, and I think he's probably looked at that game at the weekend against them in detail, and I'm pretty confident getting into that Aberdeen game that we'll be very well prepared to beat them.
Absolutely, as he always seems to have us exceptionally well prepared, doesn't he? So let's just go back to Sunday for a moment. Livingston game. Start with you, Scott. What were your general impressions of the game of the weekend?
I thought it was pretty much 3 points and up the road, to be brutally honest with you. I thought Mima Coslin came in, was one of our best players. He brought a balance to the right side to Rangers that I've not seen in a good while, to be brutally honest. I thought he linked up well with Tav. He knew when to come outside and when to stay on the byline. I thought defensively, I don't even think Livingston had any shots in target, did they?
I think it was one. I think I can't remember it, but apparently there was one.
We were never in any real danger. I thought we handled set pieces okay. I thought I was watching Rangers review this morning, and Joshua Barry said something really interesting that Dessler says at his press conference yesterday that they've been working on how to defend opposition throw-ins. So that's where the actual second goal come from, was Rangers intercepting a Livingston throw. What is it you want? What are you going to say?
I was literally just about to say that. I've got that. I was just saying that to Owen anyway.
So I thought that's kind of good work on a training pitch and on Clement's fact that when Livingston are setting so many folk, sending so many people up the park, that's when the spaces are opening up, and we've seen it for the first goal yesterday. I thought it was a really professional, steady, comfortable performance, which is good for going to Almondvale or a Tony Macaroni arena.
The spaghetti had.
Aye.
Shona, what were your general impressions of yesterday's game?
I think what I took from the game yesterday at most, I think I mentioned this to you earlier on, that any time that Livingston did get the ball, I had no fear that our defence were ever going to concede a goal. I think obviously Scotty's kind of kind of briefly mentioned that. So I think we were in control of that whole game. It was just unfortunate we were playing on that pitch, because I do think there could have been a lot more goals in it. But look, I think when you're coming back from obviously having a European tie midweek, and then you're right into an early kick-off on a plastic pitch, and what I like about Clement already, guys, is he's already had a few wee digs at the SFA with the regards to plastic pitches and regards to kick-offs already. So look, these are just wee snippets that we're taking, that he's just saying what we all think. So I think overall yesterday, I think a clean sheet, 3 points, could have been more goals, but look, we'll take it and we'll go up the road, and we'll continue on to Aberdeen. I think it's quite nice that a couple of guys like Lawrence, the likes of McLaughlin, and a few others getting like a wee bit of game time, just so the manager can kind of see what they're like after coming back from injury and get their opportunity. And I think McLaughlin and Lawrence probably the ones that stood out for me. I think Borna Barisic and Balogun had a really, really good partnership. They're really doing really well down that left hand side, and it's just really refreshing, isn't it? One, you probably would have noticed that over the last couple of games, that we're getting now more goals, more clean sheets than we did under Beale. So the XG is looking good, the stats are looking good, and I love the goal where we came in from it was one of their attacks. I think I mentioned that to you earlier on, Owen, that they took a throw in, and I think it was Tom Lawrence that managed to pick up the ball, and he played the ball through for Seamer for the goal. So it just shows you that the manager's obviously trying to use these wee snippets from transition into attack.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think, I think one of the things that really stands out for me is that the game yesterday, we obviously, the goal was disallowed, the Goldson goal that was disallowed, and then we had the penalty we missed. I can't help but feel under Beale, under Gio, I think our heads would have gone down at that point. I don't think they would have had the mentality that they seem to have got now under Clement, that ability to never give up, the ability to just keep on going. And I honestly think under Beale or Gio, that game ends 0-0, or even with a 1-1 or a 1-0 defeat. Do you think that's fair, Scott?
I kind of, yesterday was the most comfortable performance I think I've ever seen when I was going to Livy, especially when you look at the pitch and you look at different aspects, different challenges that Livingston tend to bring to the Old Firm when they play each other. I'm beginning to feel a wee bit more comfortable watching Rangers in a sense now, where even when corners and stuff were coming in yesterday, if that's under a different management setup, I'm not really sure what I'm going to see in terms of Rangers defending set pieces. But I felt quite comfortable yesterday. I think Leon Balogun has come in and he's shored up that defence big time. I had been shouting about a centre half coming in. I says not buying a centre half was going to cost Bailey's job. Unfortunately, it was other aspects that caused it. But Balogun's come in and completely shored up that defence. I can't believe the pace the guy's got for being 35. It doesn't seem any slower than when he was at his last time. So
yeah, I've been really impressed. Yeah, I've been really impressed with Balogun, the way he's performed and how he seems to domestically become kind of a first choice for us, hasn't he? I mean, obviously Ben Davies wasn't that bad against Sparta on Thursday. I didn't think he put a foot wrong, to be honest with you. But I think obviously with Suter out, Balogun's been the mainstay there. Shona, what's your take on Balogun and how he's played the last few games?
Yeah, I think he's been really good. I think at times he's really shown his pace. I think him and Golson's partnership has worked really well, and I think it's actually helped Borna Barisic too. I think that guy Newbley for Livingston yesterday, they basically he didn't really have a squeeze on the two of them. They were right on top of him, and I don't think he even had a shot on goal. I think the only shot they had in goal was a guy from outside the box that was straight into Butland's hand. So no, I think they've dealt with the situation really well. It's unfortunate though that Balogun's not in the European squad, because I think we'll kind of make sure that would probably be a mistake on our part, maybe, or should I say Beale's part, for not having him in the European squad. So look, especially with the likes of like Suter now injured, obviously we've just got Ben Davies and Golson. So you're looking at, if Suter's not back in time, you're looking at probably Leon King having to come in there, unless Ben Davies is back. So it's not an ideal situation, is it, with the defence and the injuries that they're getting, but at least the partnerships are growing. I even think that when Ben Davies has came in for the likes of Balogun, I think he's actually put in a decent performance as well. So I think it's all round good performances from everybody at the moment, and that's what we want to see. We want to see these guys that are giving their effort and the 100% in every game. But as far as Golson and Balogun, I think Balogun really has shown under this manager so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think for me, I think possibly without exception, perhaps there might be the odd one, but the players as a whole seem to have really improved hugely from Michael Beale. And I think if you kind of ask someone who hadn't seen us before and perhaps showed them the last game of Beale's reign and perhaps took the performance against Sparta the first half in particular and showed that to someone, they just wouldn't believe it was the same players. And for me, the intensity, the focus, the mentality is just absolutely first class at the moment. Scott, have you been really impressed with the change in mentality, the change in focus? And can you believe the change in some of the players as well? Or were those players always there? It just needed someone to find them?
I disagree with in terms of finding the players. I think there is players that are playing better. I think you've seen Elisa Scott Wright come in. He's had a couple of good matches. You've seen, as I've said, the emergence of young Ross McCausland coming in at right wing. Danilo, we all knew he had the quality. We're just seeing it on a more consistent basis now. Cyril Dessers, still nothing there for me. Still absolutely nothing there. Even his goal yesterday, I think it hits the Livingston defender's arse in the way into net, and you're just like, it just sums the guy up. He missed a one-on-one. Although I'm not going to try and be too harsh on him, because I thought yesterday was one of his better matches. He was actually trying to immobilise about the pitch, which I was shocked to see because I've not seen that yet. In terms of mentality, there's a massive mentality shift. That so much so that under Beale I wasn't confident about winning the League Cup, but now I'm relatively confident, quietly confident, so to speak, about getting into beat Aberdeen in the final and win the first trophy of the season. It's just a different. The players seem happier. Clement even says in his presser yesterday about how far Danilo had run on Thursday night, so he couldn't risk him yesterday. It's just smart management. It's a modern manager we've got in charge now, and it's not just a good modern manager we've got. He's got an aura about him as well. He walks into a room, you immediately sit there and you shut up. If I'm a Rangers player, he's just got that kind of. You just respect him right away. He's just one of them kind of. He's got one of them presences about him. So I am more than optimistic about going forward. I kind of wish we'd come on in for the beginning of the season, because I would have loved to see what he would have done if he didn't have this 5-point gap to try and claw back with Celtic. That's the only thing. His big tests are yet to come yet. He needs to win the League Cup, and he's got. The run of matches next. I think it's Aberdeen, Hearts, or Tynecastle. I'm not sure if Hibs at Easter Road is in there. But I think there's something like 12 matches in 38 days, which is good for us. But this is where we're going to see how far we've actually come under Gaffer.
Yeah, absolutely. And just coming back for a minute to the game at the weekend, Shona, Cyril Dessers obviously scores a goal, but he's offside an awful lot, and he does. I know he was offside at the time, but he misses that sitter as well. Is there a player there, or is he done? Is that it?
I don't think he's quite done under the manager, because the manager obviously seems to play him over Roof at the moment. Even Roof was back for the weekend. I know obviously he probably wasn't 100%, but that's now Roof been on the bench for the last 2 games and he hasn't had a sniff. So, and Roof is out of contract in the summer. Unfortunately, guys, we've got the contract with Dessers. Whether we can try and take a loss on him, I don't think with the current finances at the moment that's the best thing at this moment in time. I think under this new manager, I think Clement, I think you've got to give Dessers, write him off. What happened under Beale. I think there was a lot of players that you could actually discuss under Beale, but do I think Dessers is good enough? Probably not at this moment in time, but I'm willing to give him a chance under the new manager. I think everyone's got to. I think I agree with Scott. I even said yesterday he might have not been at his best yesterday, obviously with the goals, and he does frustrate people. But I thought yesterday was one of his better games. I thought some of the runs that he did make off the back of the defender. It just really depends on how I think Clement's going to set up tactically. I don't think it will suit his kind of game. I think yesterday was probably the ideal game that would have suited him because there was gaps that we could exploit, but maybe somewhere in Europe where you've not got that many opportunities, I think you probably would prefer to have Danilo in there. But look, I'm willing to give Dessers a chance under Clement, and I'll wait and give him to, because I think a lot of fans write off Matondo, and I saw a player in Matondo. He has an internationalist, the same as Dessers. So I'm willing to give Dessers. I'll let him see what the manager thinks of him first, but I think I've got to give Dessers at least another 10, 15 games to kind of see what he's like.
In terms of Cyril Dessers, you know, if you look back across his career, obviously the last few years haven't been that great. But when he was at Feyenoord, that was probably when he was more successful. And it was when he was coming off the bench that he was more successful than ever starting a game. Do you think that's probably the best role for him now until the end of the season? Scott, as an impact out off the bench, you know, can you see a role for him there?
No, absolutely not. I can't see a future for this boy whatsoever. To me, you've got your three ingredients to be a Rangers striker. There needs to be effort, desire, and you need to have an eye for goal. And I think he's only had maybe one or two finishes that haven't put a deflection in. He doesn't mobilise defenders. He did a bit more yesterday. But in terms of coming off, the bench, I don't really know what he offers to bring him off the bench. I mean, he's got a big kind of physical frame. So has he got? Does he win headers? Does he win your free kicks? Does he hold the ball up? Nope. Does he go offside all the time and then complain about it? Yep. He's constantly moaning at referees about stuff that I wouldn't even shout about it if I was in the stand. But it's completely irrelevant. I'm trying not to go too hard on him here, but it's purely how I feel about him. I just don't think he's got what it takes to be a Rangers player, and I would much rather see Kemar Roof come off the bench and get minutes in his legs than Cyril Dessers, because see if Cyril Dessers had a yard of pace to get past a defender, then yeah, you can bring him off the bench to have an impact. But I'm struggling to see what he brings, because he's not brought anything to the table so far. There's not one trait. I'll put this out to people in the comments, right? If there's one trait that they think that Cyril Dessers can bring to this team that we've already seen, i.e. he's scored 3-4 headers so far, which he's not done. If there's one thing that he can bring to this team, I would love to know what folk in the comments think, because I can't see him bringing anything. Absolutely nothing.
I think people know that I don't like Cyril Dessers, and I get a lot of stick for it. Corey Muncher says 6 goals, but I think, as you said, Scott, most of those have either gone in off his arse or his, or one was Matondo's goal that was very lucky, wasn't it? But I mean, people know that I don't like Cyril Dessers. I don't rate him as a striker. Looking back across his history to, I think it was 3 years ago since he's had a decent season, and for me, he's not an upgrade over Antonio Cholak. That's the one thing. I think Cholak. I'm not saying Cholak is perfect, and I'm not saying he's the best striker in the world, but I think he was better than Cyril Dessers. And I think long term we'd have been better off keeping him. And it does seem really odd, doesn't it, that we kind of signed someone who has less of an understanding of the offside rule than even Fashion Sakala did. And we all know that Fashion had absolutely zero idea what the offside rule was. So, yeah, that's one thing that frustrates the producers out of me with him, is just the fact that he's always offside. He just cannot stay on side. So we've got some comments. A goal is a goal. Which obviously then gets you into the debate over people who say that Tav just takes penalties. We've also got Ewan saying can get the tea at half time in the dressing room, Scott. Apparently that's what he's really good at, so that's why he's been signed. For me, at the weekend, one person who really impressed me, Shona, was Tom Lawrence, with his vision, his passing, his work rate. It's fantastic to have someone like Tom back in this team. And do you think now that in terms of that 10 spot behind Danilo or behind whoever's up front, is that going to be a straight battle now between Lawrence and Cantwell?
Well, I think you've also got to put Lammers in there, but I don't think Lammers is going to be good enough. But I think between Todd Cantwell, I think you've got the likes of Dowell coming back, and then you've got Tom Lawrence. But for me, Tom Lawrence is really, really good. I think he offers something different. I really do. I think he's got a really good strike of the ball when he can get into the box. I think we've seen that when he played at Derby. I think he was also their captain as well, so he can be another leader. This is what Clement keeps talking about, his leaders on the pitch, and I think that's why he's trying to drive that into the likes of Golson, Butland, Tavernier, Lundstrom, and maybe the types of like Tom Lawrence. But that was Tom Lawrence's first start in over a year, so I think Tom Lawrence has still got a wee bit to go. But it's good to see him back, and it was good to see him that he was getting really involved in the game. He was doing his defensive work. He was involved, obviously, with the goal that came from the throw-in. He was also involved with a flick-on with, I think it was Cyril Dessers, actually. It was Cyril Dessers to Tom Lawrence, and Tom Lawrence put it out to McCausland, and I think McCausland then put a shot just wide. So, like, no, like, I think if we can get Tom Lawrence further up the pitch, the big headache for me is what position do we get the best out of Tom Lawrence? Because I think that's what the manager's trying to work out, between putting Cantwell on the right hand side, Tom Lawrence obviously in the number 10, just Tom Lawrence, because Tom Lawrence can also play out in the left. So I think it's got, like, at the end of the day, I think it's good for the manager to have all these options, isn't it? But no, I thought Tom Lawrence was a close for probably man of the match for me yesterday. I thought some of his passing and his work rate off the ball was really good.
Absolutely, Shona. 100% agree with you on that one. RFC 72 says Cantwell is the best 10 at the club, in my opinion. Lawrence could possibly start deeper as the 8 maybe, or out wide. Scott, how do you think would be best to use Tom Lawrence? And, you know, are you excited to see him back and actually fit? And I hope he stays fit, obviously.
How would I use Tom Lawrence? Probably, I would imagine Cantwell's going to keep his position the right-hand side. I think that's predominantly where we're going to see Todd Cantwell plays football for Rangers just now. I would like to see him and Lawrence interchanging and changing positions. Lawrence, I think, played wide left, wide right at Derby. So I think he can play out there. He's probably got a more familiar understanding of the role. I don't see him playing deeper. I think we need Tom Lawrence possibly as a 10, or as I say, in Campbell's position. They two could really come in and do some damage after the international break if they can click. I don't know how well they're going to play together initially. Depends on what the chemistry's like between the two of them, but I reckon that it's got a recipe for some really good football to be played. That's probably how I could see Lawrence playing, is kind of interchanging with Cantwell, a bit like a rolling playmaker, kind of floating around the park a wee bit, just getting a free roll. I think if it can do that but still keep within a shape, I think we could see some signs that we're going to be really, really good going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, he is a quality player, and I think there is an element of that. I mean, thinking back to when Philippe Clement was appointed, he talked very much about that. Players being flexible in their positions, players interchanging positions, and that would come in time, didn't it? And I think hopefully, you know, give Clement another 2, 3, 4 months, get working with the players and with all the players back. We hopefully can see that with Lawrence and Cantwell, and I think that will obviously give us so many more options. And, you know, thinking about Todd Cantwell there. Obviously, Shona, you were at the game yesterday, and I know you've watched it back. And Todd's come in for a lot of criticism recently, and sometimes justifiably so, for his perceived hot-headedness at times. But the incident yesterday, personally, I thought he got unfair criticism. If you actually watch the incident back, he was quite justified, in my opinion, in reacting the way that he did, because that Livingston player could have broke his leg.
I'm surprised his reaction at the time. I'm surprised it was very mild, because that could have been a leg breaker if he didn't move his leg back. I think what you can actually see in the VAR, the boy actually extends his leg. It's bent at first, and then he does the extension, and it's right down his shin as well. So look, I think I don't understand why he was given a yellow card, and why did VAR not even look at that? It was the same with the goal that we didn't get. Do you know what I mean? That was another one that could be debatable, but I think for me, look at it there, right? That's an instant red card, and his legs extended. So, look, I think at the end of the day, I think the only thing with Todd Cantwell, he does need to watch what he does in Scottish football. I'm afraid. I think now the manager is realising this as well. I think that's maybe one of the reasons as to why it was not only was it a tactical change, but also why he got obviously subbed in the previous, it was at the Hearts game. So, like, I think Todd Cantwell does need to watch, but I think honestly this time around he's been really, really harshly done by. But look, guys, I think this is just going to be an ongoing thing now, where we're going to be talking about VAR decisions until we can get rid of it, which I obviously would love to do. We're just going to keep talking about these incidents week in, week out.
Yeah, I agree, Shona. I think that's right. But VR. I think you could have a whole podcast in itself just on VR and debating VR. Todd Cantwell. Do you think he's he's become a marked man now in Scotland due to obviously the media against him, or do you think it's wholly justified, the fact that he gets the criticism that he does, and does he really just need to actually just chill out a little bit?
No, I think I think if you take that out of his game, then you don't have half the player that we've got just now. Obviously, we've not seen a sustained level of performances that we've seen that after he signed there in January. He's not really showing that form, but he's shown glimpses of it, i.e. his goal against Sparta Prague last week. But I mean, yesterday when I saw him getting booked, I thought, what's even the need for it? Blah blah blah. I was like, it's useless coming on and getting booked for something as petulant as that. But obviously, it's when I seen it all back, I'm like, he's quite right to react to that, to be brutally honest. And I think the yellow card should be rescinded. I know you can't get an appeals process for a yellow card, but it really should be taken away because it's a harsh challenge. It's ridiculous. It's an absolutely ridiculous challenge, and it's only human nature to react to that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the problem we've got in Scotland is that there is, to some degree, that approach taken to Rangers players. There is an over physicality, particularly when we play these teams like Livingston, St Johnstone, Ross County, and a lot, not all, but some of the injuries we are sustaining are through these very dangerous tackles and the impact. And unless referees actually take action and send players off for it and make examples of it, it's going to continue, and it's always going to be the risk, I think, with the fact that, as a team, and I know this might sound arrogant, we are so much better than everyone else, and with perhaps the exception of that lot across the city at the moment, but that's just where we are. But if we sort of talk about Philippe Clement, and since he's come in as manager, I mean, I was looking at his record before I came on air tonight. We've had 7 games with him in charge. We've won 6, lost none, drawn 1. That only draw obviously was away in Prague, which was a good draw in the end. We've scored 18, conceded only 3 goals. What's your general thoughts on what's changed and on Philippe Clement, Shona?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me has probably been his man management. I think so far what he's been able to get out of the players that we thought that could probably not get a tune out of. So I think he's been able to do that. I think he's been able to, as I said, I think he's been a bit of a breath of fresh air. But he's got leaders on the park now, and that's another thing he's always installed, isn't it? It's all about leadership. I think as well that he said now there's no fear factor. He's trying to steady the ship. I think he's done that so far. I think is the way he sets up his team for me. I think that's the biggest thing. What he does, I feel as if that's why even the likes of the throw-in. So a good example from maybe 10 games ago or maybe last year, we were really, really fear when it came to set pieces and throw-ins. And I feel as if he's changed that now, not to be fear at throw-ins, but what can we do to exploit their weaknesses, that we can go on the attack and we can transition to then score a goal. I think even when you saw the Scott Wright change, when he came on for Cantwell, you could see straight away that the press was far higher up the pitch. And what happened then when the press was higher up the pitch, Danilo was able to get the ball, and we were able to get a penalty from that, or was a goal from that. So I think what the biggest thing for me is the small things that he's been saying about the style of play. I think so far we're able to see a style of play. He's talked about leaders. I think so far we've been able to see leaders on the pitch. And I think the one thing that I've really taken from between the Hearts and the Prague game, that this guy is definitely a tactician when it comes to setting up his team to exploit the opposition weaknesses. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if you watched the first Hearts game that we had when we scored the 2 goals in the last 10 minutes of the game. We were really struggling in that game. And one of the main factors in that game was Lawrence Shankland. Lawrence Shankland was causing us nightmares in that game. He scored a goal, the penalty. He was holding the ball up well. I don't know why, but we just never managed to get a hold of Lawrence Shankland in that game. You look at the next game that we played Hearts just the week after, Lawrence Shankland was missing. So obviously the Clements obviously looked at that and thought to themselves, well, who's the biggest danger man within Hearts? It's obviously Lawrence Shankland. Everything goes through Lawrence Shankland. Well, if nothing goes through Lawrence Shankland, then Hearts don't have any other options. So that's exploiting their weaknesses. Same in the Prague game. The week before, the left back was having a lot of possession going forward, using that wing really, really well. Obviously exploited that in the next game. Thought, right, okay, this left back can't defend. So we exploited their weaknesses. And I think that's the best thing about Clement. He's very, very much a man manager, that he'll set up his team to exploit the opposition weaknesses. And by what I mean by that is that you just don't know what team he's going to pick, because he'll know exactly the team he prefers to pick for that game. And that's why you're seeing like little things like Balogun coming back in, Scott Wright. Now you've got McCausland, and it gives all these guys opportunities. Like he says, we're all one big team here, so you're all fight for your position. So I don't know about you, Owen, but I've got no idea coming towards that final what kind of lineup Clement's going to pick, because for me, I just think he's very much a tactician, and we'll just have wee surprises along the way.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, his tactics are spot on. He matches his team. He to what we need. Like you're saying with Shankland, he's given us a structure. He's given us an aggression to our play, a speed to our play, and his passion. He's just seeing the passion from him on the sidelines as well. Something that Beale never showed. I think as a player, if you look across there and you see your manager with that passion and that desire to win, it's gonna inspire you. It's gonna think, well, God, if I'm not pulling my finger out, he's gonna be on my case. Scotty, what for you has been the biggest change since he's come into the club?
Mentality. There's a complete mentality shift in that team. It's a completely different outfit we're watching. Tactics, style of play, no stopping. See, when we go forward and we score a goal, we're going forward again to try and score another goal. I've not seen that in years. That type of football. It's definitely mentality. It's a kind of never say die attitude that he's brought in. He's clearly, he keeps saying he's a winner, but he's clearly a winner. You can see he's a winner. So for me, it's that. Players seem a lot happier underneath him. He's trying to get them fitter, because I don't think they were very fit under Michael Beale. Not with the amount of injuries and muscle tears and things like that we get. He's using facilities that weren't getting used. He's just an upgrade, and he's brought a higher standard to Rangers as well. But to answer your question, for me, it's mentality. He's turned a group of players that embarrassed us in Europe, and I mean, you had Rangers royalty and Stephen Davis in charge that night, and we get beat 1-0 off a team that we should never really be getting beat off. And I think if we were to play that game again tonight, it wouldn't be the same performance or result, because he's just a different class. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things for me is we under him, and you like with your mentality, with the mentality side of it as well, is to me he seems to be getting us back to being Rangers as we were under Graham Souness, and a high praise now, Rangers as we were under Sir Walter Smith. That the fact that we don't worry about, we don't have that mentality anymore. Oh, it's going to be tricky at Livingston. Oh, it's going to be a difficult game here, difficult game there. We are Rangers, and he just wants us to be that machine that turns out results game after game after game, just as we did under Walter, just as we did under Graham Souness. And we're getting back to that, I don't know, that positive arrogance. I hate the word arrogance, but kind of a positive arrogance now. Shona, would you agree with that? Do you think he's trying to get us back to being Rangers as we were under Souness and Sir Walter?
Oh, absolutely. I think that you can see that. I think even at the game yesterday, that was a low block. Back in under other previous managers, we've really struggled with a low block. And I think the other thing for me, I think, is the variation in the passing that we're playing in the game at the moment. We're playing long balls over the top. We're being very direct. It seems to be as soon as we get the ball in midfield, we try to play balls through the space in the middle. We're also trying to go down the wings as well, both from the left and the right. As we know, back in the last couple of seasons, a lot of our attacks have came down the right-hand side. We're now getting a tune out of Sima. I think Borna has played pretty decent in the last couple of games. I know everybody's got their opinion on him. But I think for me, I think like you're right. I think Clement's just installed that mentality where I feel as if we can build on, week on, game on game, I honestly think we're onto something special here. But I really do think that the next couple of months is going to be the biggest couple of months under Clement so far, because we've got a really, really tough away fixture. We've got a heavy fixture load, and obviously then we come back from the winter break. We'll still have European football. Well, they'll be out the Champions League. So like we've got to contend with all that at the same time. But I think it's just a case of, like he says, and what I really do like about him, it's just one game at a time.
Absolutely, 100%. And let's just, I was trying to bring up a question that came up in the live chat earlier that kind of, I think, builds on obviously this Philippe Clement and what he's done to the team. Scott, I'll let you answer this question first. Sorry to put you on the spot, buddy. Sharpie Staunch says, does anyone think we're good enough to beat Celtic yet? Honest opinions.
Aye, we definitely are. We could beat them. I would be very confident in a neutral venue or at Ibrox. Don't know what we're going to get when we go to Parkhead. If I'm being honest, I'd probably take a draw. If somebody offered me it now. Just because it's the toughest away match of the season. It's Celtic are not a bad side. They're definitely not a bad side. I do think that we are better than them. I think our form's better. I think we're playing better football. I think the ultimate question for me, it kind of comes down to is we needed a manager that was smarter than Brendan Rodgers. And as Philippe Clement smarter than Brendan Rodgers, it's a really, really enticing matchup, to be brutally honest with you. Obviously, Rodgers has done an awful lot in his management career, but Clement's he's not going to suffer fools gladly either. He's a tactician. He's a very smart guy. So I think it's going to. I actually think it's going to come down to tactics when we go to Parkhead, in terms of how we go about getting a result. Can we beat them? Of course we can. We can definitely go to Parkhead and beat them. But it's just, I'm trying not to get too far ahead of myself in terms of, we're going to go there and comfortably turn them over and all that kind of stuff, because I'm a realist. I'm very realistic. I'm very much a realist when it comes to supporting Rangers. I do feel better about us. I'm getting a lot more confident. I'm feeling a lot better about watching Rangers. But I do think at a neutral venue at Ibrox, see if it was the first Old Firm game of the season, the way it was back in September, we would have, if we'd come on in charge, we would have won that. It's 100%. Celtic were there for the taking that day, and the fact that they've not got they've got Maeda injured, they've got Hatate injured. I don't know what else their injury situation's like, but that's two massive players for them. They are very weak at the minute, so I would take a draw, to be brutally honest with you. And I think the first Old Firm games very much come on. That's when we'll know where Rangers are at, is by how we perform in that match. That's kind of when we're going to know what the gap is, if there is one.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I want to be hopeful, of course I do. But yeah, like you, Scotty, I've supported Rangers for long enough to know that they're just, as you get your hopes up, they'll go and they'll let you down, won't they? That's typical Rangers, isn't it? But you know, if we don't have injuries, if we've got our strong, and it's a lot of ifs again, we have our strongest lineup out there, players played in the right position. Yeah, of course we're good enough to beat Celtic. You know, Cantwell, Lawrence, Matonda if he's back, Seema, Danilo, Raskan, Lundstrom, Jack. All those guys are good enough to turn Celtic over. Of course they are. Shona, I'll asking you that same question. Are we good enough to beat Celtic now?
Yeah, I think we are. I agree with Scott. I think, look, it's all about your mentality, and we're building that mentality. And I think if we have that right mentality, get into that game, I think there's no doubt that these players can do that. If we don't have the right mentality, we won't win the game. But I think the lack of having no fans there is not going to be a help. I think you would take a draw at this moment in time, because that would set us up nicely. They're also going to be missing quite a few players when it comes into January, because they've got a lot of players going out. Is it to the Asia Cup or something like that? The African Cup of Nations, one of the two. I think they've got quite a few players missing. But for me, I think their two biggest players, if you can nullify Callum McGregor and Matt O'Reilly in that middle of that park, they've got nothing. They really don't. They don't have anything else that I think that will, because a lot of these guys as well that will be coming in, it'll be their first Old Firm game, or they've not really played in many first Old Firm games. So I think if you nullify those two players, obviously the defence have to obviously work out Kyogo, but I think that'll be fine if you have the likes of Golson and Balogun in there. And yeah, if you can manage to get their midfield, I think we get on top of their midfield, I think the game is ours. So, but look, I think as I said, I think it's just one game at a time just now, because you just don't know at that moment in time. But I do think at this moment in time we're building that mentality, and as long as we have that right winning mentality, I'm pretty confident that game will win it.
Owen, can I jump back in here quickly?
Yeah.
You know what it comes down to when I'm talking about kind of Brendan Rodgers and his tactics and things like that. Now, remember we went through a spell where we were winning games under Graham Murray and Celtic came to Ibrox, and it was the first time since we'd come back up that we were really, really feeling good about getting into a game. If we thought if we could win it, we would basically march on towards a better title challenge than what we'd had in recent seasons. Celtic went down to 10 men and Rodgers still found a way tactically to pull a rabbit out of the hat. He came to Ibrox in September and pulled a rabbit out of the hat. I don't know how he done it, but he done it. So it's going to be interesting in the sense of to see what Clement's going to do, because under Rodgers, I've always got a kind of a fear that you just don't know what you're going to get with Celtic. Because he is a good tactician. I'm not going to say he isn't. He is a good manager. So in me, it comes down to how Clement's going to have his team set up on a day. I think it's a tactical battle, to be honest with you. No, so much down to players' ability. I think it's going to be who comes out on top with the manager.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think in terms of Rodgers and tactics, I mean, Rodgers has obviously worked under some very good managers in the past. He worked at Chelsea. He's worked in a variety of different environments at different levels. So he is I think just to dismiss him out of hand, it is wrong. And I think you're right there. He does find a way, doesn't he, of getting around these issues. But it is going to come down to, I think, who gets it right on the day. And we will really see Clement and how good he actually is. And I'm very confident in him. I mean, I think, his quote tonight that he came out with, it's just in response, obviously, he was talking about, this is what he said. He said, I'm a winner. I've won as a player. I've won as a manager. And now I want to win here at Rangers. This club is built on collecting trophies on a regular basis. That has to be our objective. Just very, very impressive man, isn't he, Shona?
Yeah, it's just the way he talks, isn't it? I think everyone's taken to him in his pressers as well. I think overall what he's saying, he's able to put that onto the pitch, on and off the pitch. And I think, I've said this for a while, I was touting for Clement, as Scott will know, do you know what I mean, between him and Muscat for a while, because he doesn't have an affiliation with these players, but what he does do, he's got a really, really strong mentality. I don't think any guy would want to try and get anywhere near him. The guy's 6'4" as well, so he's an absolute man mountain. And I think that kind of aura, that presence about him, you just gain that instant respect. And I think that's what happened under the likes of Walter Smith and Graham Souness. It's just having that aura about you around the club. I think what you do get is you get a really, really good man manager that will, at times, I think you said in the past, Owen, that when he's brought subs on, he's gave them like at the end of the game, he's really got his arm around them. He's having a good conversation with them before they either come on as a sub or when they're coming off. So I think he's installing that kind of calmness about him. He's got that kind of calmness about him. But I do think, though, if you were to get on his wrong sides, I don't think he'll be one to mess with. I'm telling you that now. So I think you've always got that balance, don't you? So I think he gains that instant respect. I think just now with the players, I think that kind of respect that kind of Walter Smith had, that you knew that if you were on his good side, you're on to good things, but if you got on his bad side, it was game over. So I think that's what the good thing about Clement is, about his aura about him, and I think that's just going to materialise the more games that he plays. And like you said, I think he's been at the fourth official. He's now had a go at the SFA. So look, more of that the fans will just get on board with him. And I think that's what you're seeing is with that comment there, where he's saying we're born leaders. He wants to win. I won as a manager. He's now trying to install that with the fans as well, isn't he? He's trying to get that relationship back. And I think we can see that now as well, because you know yourself, players always feed off the fans always feed off the players. And if your manager is like that on the touchline, it just adds that wee bit of extra, oomph, doesn't it, to a game? So no, I think he's definitely the right guy that I've been saying for a while now that we really needed at Rangers at this moment in time. I think we needed a manager and not a coach. And I don't know what you think about that, Owen, but this guy is definitely a manager.
Absolutely, Shona. He is a manager, and he is. I think someone said in the live chat, he looks a big, scary unit. And I remember reading a comment, or I reading something somewhere that said someone he'd been the first time he'd been to Ibrox since Clement was appointed, and he was fairly close to the dugout, and he just said, "I had no idea he is that big. He is a big old unit. He's a big guy, and he does look very, very scary. And I wouldn't mess with him. I certainly would not want to annoy him. And I think that's exactly what we needed. I think someone who would go in there and instill some discipline into this team. I think Michael Beale was a coach trying to do a manager's job, whereas this guy is a manager, but a manager who can coach as well as he's very much hands-on. He's the best of both worlds. And for me, he just has the right mentality with the players, with the fans. And I think his subs as well, the changes he makes, his in-game management is excellent. I don't think he's made a single substitution yet where you've gone, that didn't work. He's made a couple where you've gone, what's he doing that for? But then you see, actually, yeah, that worked. Well, that's amazing. But his in-game management, I think, is absolutely fantastic, Scott. I mean, what have you made of that so far?
He's definitely got a presence. There's no doubt about one. He's come in and completely changed the culture at Rangers. I want to say. I think there was a certain mentality block when we've had other managers in charge where the players didn't know in terms of how to manage a game if they go a goal down. I.e., there's been loads of separate instances where say Tav misses a penalty and the heads go down and whatever else, but doesn't seem to stop us. I mean, that's twice it's happened now. Tav stepped up and hit the second penalty and scored it. Shows character to me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not Tav's biggest fan in terms of being a captain of the club. I think we could be going forward with somebody else, but it's a complete mentality change. He's come in and gave the players a bit of belief. I mean, Elisa Scott Wright, you need to look at his performances alone. Just put him into the equation a minute in terms of that's just good man management. And that's somebody getting in and getting the best out of his players, and that's a manager's job. He's tried his best with Lammers. He's not quite got the best of Lammers yet. We've only really seen the goal at Dundee. That's what I was kind of saying about Dessers earlier on. Like, tell us something that he's got. We know now Lammers has got that kind of goal in his locker. You can kind of see a shape about how he could play. I'm quite happy the international breaks came when it has, though, because I think it's going to give Clement more time on his training pitch and get some of the injured boys back and get fitness levels up. I know that he's not gave them like most. If this an international break under Bill, they would have a week off and then sort of been back the following week to get ready for Aberdeen. But I think Clement's got them in on like individual training programs, and if you're not fit, you're in. He's had them doing it. I know he's had them doing extra running, and he's basically said that that's not because you've played badly or because you've done something wrong. It's because I need you ready to step in. And he wants to create a culture where, like, Cantwell came out for McCausland on Sunday. He doesn't want Campbell's head to get down over it. He wants him to support McCausland into playing better. So he's trying to create a team culture. So he's a bee's knees. And it was Shona will be happy to hear me say he was a correct appointment over Kevin Muscat, who was my guy at the time. I wanted Muscat in, but I was wrong.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just want to go back. Actually, want to go back. Someone pointed him out in the live chat a little while ago. Shona, obviously, you were at the game yesterday. This was absolutely amazing. This was just fantastic. I think it was the Union Bears that organised it, obviously, and respect to the Union Bears for that. And the fans obviously participated in that. But it was absolutely phenomenal and a real fitting tribute to the fallen heroes. Shona, what was it like being there and being involved with that?
Well, as you know, I think Livingston's quite a small knit stadium, and obviously 3 stands are obviously Rangers fans. So the atmosphere was incredible yesterday. It really has picked up. I go to most games, and it really has picked up since obviously Bale left. You don't hear the grunts as well. It's same, yourself. I think when Bale was here and every player was making a mistake, they always had that kind of grunt in the crowd. Even if a player makes a mistake now, there's not that grunt anymore. But I have to admit, that was a sensational display by the Union Bears. Fair play to them. Must have cost them an absolute fortune as well after doing the one the week before at Ibrox. So, no, fair play to them. The atmosphere was absolutely brilliant. And fair play to all the fans as well, because, it's not that hard to stay silent for 90 or whatever it is, a minute. So, but obviously we managed to do that, other than some other clubs that obviously can't manage to stay silent. So at least we showed our respect to to all the guys that obviously fought for us, and it was a really nice tribute for the Poppy Day, for Remembrance Sunday. So no, it was a really good tribute to the Union Bears. But just going back to your man management, this is what I love about Come On. It's these springing, like these surprises, like the likes of Scott Wright, likes of taking Cantwell out, and everybody's saying, why is he doing? Why is he dropping Cantwell? Why is he bringing in McCausland? Look, Clement's giving all these guys their opportunity, and it's up for them to take their opportunity. And I think the more, like Scott says, the better. The more that we're going to be one big massive team, it's like one big family. I think that's going to really help the players. I think at the moment, I think what you found under Beale, what I found mainly under Beale, it doesn't matter if you're playing bad week in, week out. It looked like you were still going to go on ahead and play in those big European games, maybe going on to the final. You'll probably find that as well, that the guys, old guys, if they weren't playing well, they'll still be playing the final. Look, guys, if you're not playing well under Clement, you won't be playing in that final. So it's up to yourself. If you want to put in the effort and the performance and have that right mentality, I think you're going to have to state your place for in that final, because there's only going to be a squad of 16, 17 players for that game. So no, look, I think for me, I think the big thing for me is his man management. I think he's really done well in picking on the players and giving each one of them their opportunity so far. And that's all you can ask for, isn't it? Was giving every single one. The biggest one for me, and I don't know about you, is where does Matondo fit in all this? Because I think we need to try and sign Seema in January. We need to.
Yeah, I mean, I think Matondo has a role to play, perhaps as an impact player off the bench. I think that's perhaps where he's more effective when teams are tiring and his speed going past people. I agree about Seema. My one concern about Seema, Scotty and Shona, is the price. That's my one concern. Players from the English Premier League have that English tax on them, the English supplement that you have to pay, and my worry is that he'll be another Malik Tillman that we won't be able to afford at the end of the day, because they'll want something ridiculous for him. 10, 15 million pounds. I know that sounds daft, but it's Brighton. It's their EPL teams charge lots of money for players, because I mean, down there in the English Premier League, 30 million pounds is pretty much becoming the standard transfer because of the amount of money that is swilling around down there. Scotty, just picking up what Shona just asked there to get your opinion on it, where does Matondo get used, and can we assign Seema? Could we afford him?
I think you're going to see less of Abdallah Seema after the international break, and I think you're going to see Matondo come in on that left-hand side. I think Seema's going to start getting rotated, because he's been my best player since Clements took over. There's absolutely no doubt about that, but he can't keep churning out the same level of performances every 3 days. I mean, it's not humanly possible, let's be honest, no matter how good you are. So to me, that's Matondo's role, is that left-hand side is going to be between him and Abdallah Seema. I still think you're going to see Seema more than Matondo, but it's going to bring in some competitions, because Seema's nailed that spot down now. But he can't keep. I mean, me and Shona were talking on a gallant few the other night, and we were actually. I was saying that I thought Seema was going to get dropped on Sunday, just purely to give the guy a rest, because he's been playing left wing back and do you know what I mean? Various different roles since Clement came in. So he does the international breaks in now, so I don't think Seema's been called up. But I think we're going to lose Seema near January anyway for the African Cup of Nations if he does get a call up for Senegal. Yeah. I would hold fire with putting a bid in for him just now. I would hold fire towards the kind of end of the season, because if we're going to get in from in January, then his price tag's inflated just now. Whereas if Matondo is going to come in and kind of phase Seema out a wee bit, and there's going to be a wee bit more kind of competition for places there, then I reckon the price tag's going to be a lot more easier to negotiate in the summer, because Seema's not going to be playing as much. But then I think the thing is with these loan deals, I look at Malik Tillman in the summer there, and I just think like there could be other clubs that could come in for Seema in the summer, and it all depends on the boy. It all depends where he wants to go. It's like when Barry Ferguson came back to Blackburn Rovers, he came back because he says to Blackburn Rovers, I don't want to play for this club. I want to get back up the road to Rangers. I want to go home. And it took him to say that. There was still other clubs sniffing about him at the time, so it's going to take a situation like that to occur. So there's an awful lot of factors involved in it. And do we really have the money to go out and sign a player like Seema? Do you know what I mean? If you're looking at it realistically, I think if he's not got a future at Brighton, I think they'll maybe be wanting to punt him on to like a Leeds United or Leicester, somebody coming up for the Championship that's going to be more stable in the Premier League, a Brentford, somebody like that. They'll be looking to inflate the price tag, and we all know what the EPL's like for money. It's ridiculous, the price of a player down the road. So would I sign him? Yes. Do I think we're going to sign him? No, I don't think we've got the finances or the pulling power to Abdallah Seema on a permanent basis, because I think he's going to get back down to Brighton. Remember, this is all part of Brighton's plan for him. This loan move this was always going to happen, whether it was us or whether it was somebody else. So no, I really don't think he's going to sign on a permanent basis, but you never know.
Yeah, I think that is the issue. Especially when you consider that even players in the Championship have been mentioned at 25, 30, 35 million pounds at this moment in time. I mean, I was reading some Championship news about Leeds United the other day, and they've got a right back, a 17-year-old right back called Archie Grays, the nephew of Eddie Gray, and apparently Liverpool are going to put a 40 million pound bid in for him, and he's 17. And they've got another player called Crysencio Somerville, and apparently he's been mentioned at 30 million pounds. This is Championship teams. Shona, do you think Seema is a realistic signing? Can we afford him?
Yeah, we do.
Well, I think if you don't ask, you don't get on. So I think we have to go and try in January. I don't want to be waiting to the summer till we have another Tillman situation or other clubs that obviously look at. I know what Scotty's saying there, that his price tag is high. His price tag could get even higher by the summer. So look, how much do you think, guys? I'll tell you now. I know what he's on per week at Brighton, and I know what his transfer value is. You guys tell me what you think the transfer value is, and how much he's on per week at Brighton.
Okay, so transfer value, I would say at the moment, 10 mil. As for weekly wage, Premier League weekly wage, 25, 26,000. Gotti, what would your best guess be?
I would think more towards the £30,000 region in terms of what he's on. And price tag, I think you're looking about 10, 12 million. But you could pay that up. We could do a similar deal to what we've done for Ryan Kent. But it's a big outlay, and we've only seen flashes of this boy so far. He's not scored in 3-4 matches now. So is he going to be worth that amount of money for Rangers? I don't know.
Okay, Shona, come on, put us out of our misery then.
So his transfer value at the moment is £6 million. He's out of contract a year in the summer. He has the option, if he wants another year, it's his option, and he's only on £8,000 a week at Brighton at the moment. So I think, guys, if we have to pay up to be between £7 or £8 million for this boy, I really do think he's worth it at the age of 22. Whether, obviously, you said there, Owen, that Brighton might come in, but I think that Seema what he could do if he wanted to. I think if he loves it just now at Rangers, it's all down to Seema, mind you. If he's loving it just now at Rangers, he could come up here for 2-3 years. He can get his move down to Brentford or the likes of down there in the Premier League. So I think if he really wants it to be home, which I do think he is, I think he does love it up here. The amount of times that you hear him in interviews, pressers and whatnot, the way he scores these goals, he really is having a lot of fun up here. If we can manage to get that boy between, I think, 7 or 8 million, like you say, pay up in installments, offer him 10, 15 grand a week, 15, 20 grand a week, just doubling his salary. I think it would be an absolute steal if we manage to get him. But whether we sign him or not, I'm not too sure. But I think we do have to try.
Yeah, I think he is a good player, and I think if you can get him for 6-7 million, that's very reasonable. Well, it feels weird, doesn't it, to say that it's very reasonable, 6-7 million, because it realistically really isn't. It's a lot of money, but for football clubs it is reasonable. But I suppose it's like you say, Joni, if you don't ask, you don't get, and I think it's something perhaps we have to look at in January, and if not January, certainly at the end of the season. I suppose then it could actually, like Scotty said, come down to the player and where does the player want to be? Because I would suggest that, like Scotty said, teams who come out of the Championship this season, the Leicesters, Southamptons, or Leeds, or I think it's Ipswich who are in up there at the moment. they are gonna want to spend money in the summer. They could possibly outbid us because Premier League clubs just have so much ridiculous amount of money, an absolute ridiculous amount of money, don't they? So, after the international break, obviously we've got a pretty demanding run of fixtures. Coming up. Obviously, Aberdeen is our first game. Then it's Aris in the not Champions League. Sorry, Freudian slip there. In the Europa League, St Mirren at home, Hearts away, Rangers against Dundee. Then we're away at Betis. And then obviously it's the cup final against Aberdeen. Very demanding run of fixtures there, Scotty. Do you think realistically up until that cup final, with maybe the exception of the Betis game, we can go unbeaten?
Yeah, I would. We can definitely go up unbeaten. I'm not sitting saying we're going to go unbeaten, but we can do it. I think Clement's going to get into the game at Pittodrie and come out with a relatively comfortable win. Just because he's got this fortnight now to get more of his ideas across, and like Shona's already touched upon in terms of you don't know what starting lineup he's going to put out. So potentially. It'll be interesting to see. This coming up now is a business time of the season. This is going to depend on how many trophies we're going to win. Obviously, we've got a cup final. If we win a cup final, confidence is high going into the game at Celtic Park. So there's definitely a lot to be optimistic about. Just seen that comment you put up there about Lawrence Shankland. I think he's a must in January as well. Purely, you spoke about Dessers earlier on in terms of maybe having a role coming off the bench. Lawrence Shankland offers more coming off the bench than Cyril Dessers, 100%. I would rather we spend the money on the SEMA money, for example. I'd rather we spend that on a ball carrying winger, which we need. Centre backs, I'm not crying out for more as much as I was because of the re-emergence of Leon Balogun. If we can keep Balogun fit, then I think we're going to be okay at the back. And I do think we need a good backup striker for Danilo because we've not got one just now. Roof's not really getting a sniff at the first team. And Dessers isn't really bringing much to the table. So we're a wee bit light in the forward department, and I would like to see a winger come in, a ball carrying winger, just somebody that can take the ball up the park.
Fair enough. Shona, can we go unbeaten with perhaps the exception of the Betis game?
Oh yes, I think of course we can. I think we're building that right mentality as long as, like Clement says, we'll take it game by game. I think the XG at the moment is looking really, really good under him. I think we're averaging around about 3 goals per game. So if we can continue that and build that mentality up, I've got no doubt that we can go unbeaten. But I do think this is going to be one of the toughest couple of months under his reign. You know what we're like after a winter break as well. So I think with all these away games tucked in, I think you've got Aberdeen, you've got Hibs, you've got Motherwell in there, you've got Aberdeen. These are really, really quite tough away games, especially getting into the winter months. So, no, I think if we can get away from them and go into the Old Firm game with the same amount of points, or even hopefully they'll drop more, but if we can go into that Old Firm game, like Scott said, win that final, that builds that mentality, get into that game, and I've got no doubt if we're on the 5 points behind, I still think we'll be able to close that gap down to 2 points. And I think then it starts then. I think if we can win that, the mentality shift will change, because you can imagine all the punters, all the media out there will be getting on Brendan Rodgers' back as to how much Rangers have already cut the gap and how much of a big second part of this season is going to be. So, and then there's still 2 Old Firm games to come after that, guys, as well. So, no, look, I think this is the biggest 6 weeks, I think, of Clement Rangers' career for this season so far. But if we can get through that, I've got no doubt that we can probably go in to win this league. And I know that's some statement to make, but I really do think that we can win the cup final and win against them on the 30th of December, then I'm pretty certain that we'll go on to win this league, because the mentality shift will change.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think we can go unbeaten. I think we could even go to Seville and get a draw. I think that will be tough. I personally don't. I think by that point we'll have qualified anyway, so I don't think that game will matter. So I personally think we can go unbeaten, and if we can go unbeaten up until when we face them, it is going to put, like Shona says, a hell of a lot of pressure on Brendan Rodgers, and it's how he handles that and his team handle that. Obviously, okay. Let's start to pull it together now. We've gone over an hour. Scotty, first of all, anything you want to plug? Where can people find you? Where can people get more of your work?
Head over to insideibrox.com. There's been a couple of articles written recently, and there's more in the pipeline. You can also catch me over at the Gallant Few podcast. I'm quite a regular on there, and just head over to Twitter, see my part.
Absolutely, yeah, and some great articles by Scotty. Thoroughly recommend them. Thoroughly recommend his reading those articles. Some good ones. We always retweet them here on Glasgow Rangers Nation as well, so you can find them. Yeah, definitely good part, especially with Curry there, like he's had tonight. I think there was a romance at times going on there between you and Curry, Scotty. Shona, where can people find you and get more of your work?
Yeah, well, you can find me over in the Gallant Few podcast. I'm a bit of a regular on there, so you can find me on there. If you don't, you can also find me on Twitter as well. I am Shorty on Twitter, or Shona McLean 86 on Twitter. So give us a wee follow, guys. If you want to private message me and give me a wee chat, quite happy to do so. But thanks very much, Owen, for having me on. Thanks everybody in the comments. Hope you've enjoyed it, and here's to hopefully another one soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Shona. Thank you, Scotty, and thank you, Shona. Been fantastic talking all things Rangers tonight. Obviously the Livy game and Clement and looking to the future as well. I personally think, as I released a video earlier and they said the future's bright. I think the future is very bright under this manager. I think we're heading in the right direction, and I think it is we are on the up now. And as long as we maintain that upward trajectory, I can see only good things for this club. There's a lot of chat about OnlyFans, guys. That's for another place. That is totally for another place. Typical Curry there. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching the pod tonight. As always, guys, on the way out, there's two things I always need you to do for me. Number one is smash the like, and number two, please always remember, never forget, we the people.